Hey there, if this is our first time meeting, I'm Kenny here with Jeremy, and now and here we talk about faith life, but mostly frivolities. And now you're listening to Small Talks Radio. So the question of the day is, does new equal good? Or on the contrary, old bad?
Yeah, that's that's something we're gonna have to reckon with in this generation, this culture. This is the thing is there are some people, if you talk to them and you say, "Wow, I've got this old thing. It's from or this is old music. This is an old book, whatever." They'll like straight write it off just from that one word. Uh,
Hmm.
it's almost like pathological thing where it's like, well, if it's dated, I don't need it. And you can understand this. Like big part of our culture is everything gets updated frequently, and if you don't have the most up to date thing, then it's not even going to be compatible with newer things. So I get it for
I don't
some things.
I don't know if this is Aristotle, but it goes along. Only thing that stays constant is change itself. So, um, you know that phrase, or you heard of it before? I don't know if you heard it. I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure you did. I don't know who. It might be. I think it was Aristotle. I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure it's wrong. Now I'm thinking
well,
about
yeah,
it, but it's one of
it's
the ancient Greeks. Yeah. Anyway, so
yeah,
and I think it's like kind of human nature to seek after these different things and new things because it kind of spikes our hormones and makes us feel good with um, for example, the new car smell. Everyone likes a fresh piece of paper or
mm,
something, like the first time you read on it, the new fabric smell. Even if it's an older car, if you switch it, there's that butterfly in your stomach where it feels good. And I think we're just attracted to something that we haven't been exposed, and it's a stimulus for our brain, our emotions. And I think that's why we are not necessarily new things, but I think a lot of people are attracted to different things, something that they aren't used to. And I guess the experience itself, whether it's new or not, if it's new, it's good, obviously. But 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 that itself gives us excitement and joy, and it's a stimulus because we haven't had something like that done to us before. And the experience of getting new things, I think it all kind of comes into one.
yeah. This gets psychological pretty much immediately, where
Oh man.
especially
We
if you
got
paint
too
it as
too
like a
fast.
yeah. Well, here we are. Especially if you're using the word stimulus, because like this to me at least reaches directly into like addiction. I feel like I wrote about this somewhere, but I don't remember where. Where like you can get addicted to newer like once you've done something and you've kind of seen what there is to see in it, there's no reason to retread it because there's something else new going on somewhere else, and so you might as well jump on that train. And then once you get done with that thing, you're going to move on to the next thing, and that emotion that comes with experiencing a new thing because it's so accessible now. Addiction seems like right around the corner. Not addiction in like the chemical sort of way. I've heard some people draw the line between addiction and compulsion. I guess I would call this one a compulsion, but all things considered, it's going to be functionally the same. Where it's like after you've had something for long enough, this is why you wouldn't like. Not only are DVDs outdated as a format, but like, why would you buy a movie if
480p.
you?
480p. That's low.
Oh
That's not
yeah,
standard definition. You can't even
yeah,
you don't watch that even on your phone anymore. That's such bad
yeah,
quality. But back then, we're like, oh man, we get to have this at home from
yeah.
VHS to DVD. That was like my dad still like asked me to get him a DVD player like not too long ago because he didn't know how to stream. I'm like, why would you do that? They're so like it's terrible quality.
Mhm.
Like when blow it up on TV, it looks terrible, but like that's what
Yeah,
they're used to,
it's
right? Because it's and yeah, it's oh man, DVD.
uh, yeah,
That
and so like I'll rip them, and I end up with these files that it still feels magical to me that I can carry a bunch of movies around like on a little stick. But
yeah,
yeah, when you go and you play them, they look awful, and they artifact really easily. Like you get all these like scan lines and stuff like that. It's not impressive like it once
I
was.
mean now it's cloud, so it's like nothing. You don't have to carry
Mhm.
anything around with you as long as you have
Right? Yeah,
data
it's
or
all yeah,
yeah. But I mean, if you wanted to go, you can always. There's I have SD cards are like terabyte size
yeah. Oh,
USBs that are
unreal.
yeah. So
That's obviously part of it as well. So like what draws you to newness? Some people, like I heard one guy say that he didn't like listening to the Beatles, not because he didn't like their music. So like he'd listen to covers and stuff like that, but he couldn't like go back and listen to the low quality 60s sound because it was recorded so long ago. And so it's true. When you listen to this stuff, it sounds dated and old. I don't mind that at all, but like I get it. At least there's
I prefer lo-fi music because like that distortion you hear or that fuzzy I don't know, it's kind of soothing. I like the white noise. Yeah,
there is an aesthetic to it. Yeah,
and there's a huge following now. It's called like a lot of people they subscribe to lo-fi like music channels or Spotify. They have lo-fi music, and then
how hard it is to mix that. Just put a
I think you can put maybe it's a filter that they put over there, or they can actually have something playing that's a lo-fi, and then that would be the sound.
Right.
That would be the input, right? So, but
with that said, that does beg the question of like, is there a repulsion to older things in the first place? Because like it's one thing to be like drawn to new things, but it's another thing to look at old things and actually have a negative reaction just automatically. The same way you could have a positive reaction to new things automatically. If you were to go back and think like, well, in the case of the Beatles music, I can't hear this. This is just grating to me. Knowing that there's, well, not just knowing there's higher quality things, but like having heard the crisp sound of a really good, especially with like electronic stuff and just how clear sounds can be now. If you were to go that far back, like I could see it being grating, being hard to listen to. And that would probably go for other things as well. Like if you go back and watch old movies. Oh, I was just watching a thing. I think it's Chico Marx. It was a Marx Brothers thing. But what made it so strange was that in the middle of this movie, they just take the camera, they plop it down on the piano, and we watch a guy play piano for a little bit. It's entertaining and it's nice, but like we would never do that now. Even like think Bohemian Rhapsody, there was a piano scene and like half of it's CG and it's these, still sweeping shots of just a guy playing piano. Like it's not just that it's, grainy old film, like the techniques and the style of filming is different and people are more inclined to get bored with older stuff. Like we have been modifying these techniques and getting better. So there's more than just like the raw quality of something to look at when it comes to evaluating the difference between what's new and what's old. And I can see certain things being repulsive, even if it's difficult to articulate exactly what it is that's making it that way.
Yeah, that's something to think about. I mean, it's very easy to say like be very neutral and say, oh yeah, some people are like that, but some people aren't, and those. I mean, I'm a lot of the times I'm one of those people where they say, yeah, it's a case by case. Some people tend to like this type of music. Some people don't. Some people like the old new. They don't care. Everyone's different, but in general, people tend to gravitate towards newer things.
Yeah, I think you can definitely see why. What I'd like to do is figure out how to exactly make things seem a little bit more compatible, because the biggest problem is that like you straight up lose stuff. Like that's part of the reason why they're going through and remaking a lot of old games. Final Fantasy VII got a remake. A bunch of the Resident Evils got remakes. I wouldn't be surprised. They tried to do Silent Hill, or at least they'll remaster stuff, things like that. It's because it's a part of history. There was an experience of doing this thing. And in fact, newer experiences aren't as meaningful if you aren't connected with those older things. There's got to be a way of training an instinct or training an attraction or being able to see both the new and the old and appreciate them from what they are. It's really that thing, appreciation. If you can figure out how to do that.
I definitely do understand that, and I think it's important. History is important, and a lot of the times we look back and we try to trace to ancient history where we try to theorize what happened, or archaeology, anthropology, what did the Mayans do. We don't know it because it wasn't recorded and it hasn't been preserved in over time, and that's obviously important too. But I think it's just because when things are new, oftentimes it's improved and it's usually better. Not all the times, but a lot of the times it's better, and that's why I think we tend to go that direction. But like you said, or at least to backlog and backtrack, and how since every time something's new, we have more information, and in order for us to compile it, and then to keep up with, how people are saying it's very hard to keep up with new technology and all these new things, but I think it's the other way around. It's a lot harder to keep up with whatever happened in the past, there's so much, infinitely more things that happened before you than what's happening to you now.
Yeah, well said. That's the hard thing about getting a degree at all, because like the documentation that you have to do for writing a good paper is just absurd. Like you have to go to a library, you have to go find everything that's relevant, get this big old stack of books and know what they all said, and then you can go on and start to be a little bit more creative and generative with things. But it's madness. It's a ridiculous amount of stuff that you have to do. The to-do list is huge if you actually want to be comprehensive with things. And so, yeah, it is a little bit easier to just kind of, well, where are we right now? Who's the last guy that's surveyed something? And I'll just kind of take off of his notes.
Bringing academia into it, it's like the further you're down in the road, there's more information that you should be you need to know, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And that goes for like every single field. But like I'm reading Frankenstein with a student, and she's enjoying it. She's like 15, and it's a fun story. There's stuff that
I've never read Frankenstein, but I know if everybody knows what Frankenstein.
Everybody knows what Frankenstein is. Yeah. Well, some interesting contrast. First off, everybody should know this. Frankenstein is not the name of the monster. It's the guy that made it. Victor Frankenstein. Oh, wow. He's the scientist. That's important. Second off, Frankenstein is not green. That's Hollywood. Third, it's Frankenstein, the mad scientist, isn't too much a mad scientist. There's a little bit more nuance to his character. In fact, continuing on, he doesn't have his own little like assistant named Igor, right? And another thing is he's not in his giant castle. There's no like Frankenstein's castle. He's in his like it's a house. It's a nicer house. I think he's got a servant or something like that. But basically, like, the monster just comes to life. It doesn't like flip the switch on a stormy night. It's not a bolt of lightning, or at least I haven't. So far as I've gone, I don't think it's a bolt of lightning. And like the guy just kind of like wakes up, it convulses a little bit, and he starts walking around. Frankenstein gets freaked out, and then he basically runs away. Yeah. So that's nothing like what you normally hear. Anyway, that has been an interesting story. I have it sitting right here, pointing over it. And it happens that we have classics. We hold on to older things just because there are certain ones we know are good, and we'll go back and look at them. But everything about it, the diction that it's written in, because it's from I think it's published 1819 or something crazy like that. It's pretty old. The diction.
Who wrote it?
Mary Shelley, and I think that's her only hit, as it were.
I think she wrote that when she was young too, like 18, I think.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of those like that. To Kill a Mockingbird is Harper Lee, and she was less than 20, I think. And then you've got The Outsiders, which is
Pony Boy.
Yeah, who's the author of that?
I don't remember, but I just remember reading. I just remember that The Outsiders. It was about a bunch of kids.
Boy. Pony Boy. So much for hardcore names. That was written by someone else who was in their youth, and I think it's also a female. I'm not going to draw any conclusions from this at this point. But anyway, with that said, being able to go back and appreciate things for what they are, and not getting caught up on the age of things. There's certain things that will just slip along. Style is going to change over time. The quality of certain things, like if we actually had the old documents, we'd have these old books that we were looking at, which actually would be kind of nice, but it's not the same with other pieces of media. So like music doesn't sound as good when it's older. But getting past all these little tiny things and being able to see things for what they are, to be able to appreciate them and like actually pull the value out of them. There's tons, even infinite amount of things in human history to look back on. You'll never run out of stuff to look at your entire life if you could get past the prejudices we have against things that are old. Or in the opposite direction, you have these hyper-traditionalist people that don't want to get past the things that are new. And so there's prejudices to overcome all over the place. But there's got to be some, maybe not method, but it's an attitude to put on, a disposition to other things that if you can manage that, if you can get into that headspace, like think of all the beautiful things you can unlock.
Yeah, no, that's when you think of new versus old, and you're talking, and then you just brought up those people that are comfortable with where they are and they don't want to do
Mhm.
anything new and they want to stay where they are. Like especially the older generations that we have, Gen. What are they called? Baby boomers or something? Our
Boomers
parents'
before
generations.
them, or there's some others. You got the silent era, I think, is before
Anyway,
them.
anyway, then I mean, they were the rebellious ones compared to
Mhm.
the generation before, and they have new things, after whatever industrial revolution. Though that was way too long ago. Never mind. But anyways,
Yeah.
yeah, I think when you don't, so you know how I said it's easier to keep up with the new things over older things, right? Because the backlog of um, all the things that have happened in the past, there's just too much to keep up with that. Because every time there's something new, and then new and new again, all that new stuff until that point, it's part of the back catalog. But I guess those people, they're doing the easiest thing, or the path of least resistance is just do what they already know. They don't care about what happened before them or after them. They're just in um that time and space where they grew up in, and that's
Yeah.
all they know, and that's all they want to know. Because I think it's most people, people's tendency is towards automation, and the reason why
Mhm.
we go into automation is because it's easier on us,
Yeah.
mentally, physically.
Mhm.
So like when you drive, when you go home, you a lot of the times you're like, "What? I'm already home." You forget
Yeah.
the road that you drove in. You don't remember seeing all things. Is
Mm.
because that's what our body tends to do.
Yeah,
Once
it
it
shuts
learns,
off.
it shuts off and it does automate. It doesn't mean that you weren't driving safely, but your body just naturally eliminates
Mhm.
unuseful, wasteful, new, because it's just easier on you, right? It's a survival
Mhm.
instinct, and I think that's what those people are doing, like in that generation, and they're doing that not because they don't want to become better. It's just that's how animals, humans, or
Mhm.
whatever, it's just what we do because it's a survival instincts. I think just because it
Yeah, give me
conserves
that.
energy.
Safer, conserved energy. Yeah, that's good. This does beg the question, though, of what the younger generations will be like if what you know. I do think as you get older, you kind of settle down on what you already know. But if what you know is constantly updating, getting into new things, what happens when you're, in your 50s and you don't have that like the good old days per se to settle on? Because what were they? They were constantly changing between a bunch of other things. So what
I
do you go
mean,
back and settle on?
we won't. I can't. I don't think we can ever know what happens in the future because everything happened
Well, we
within the
can know
last.
in the future when it
I mean,
happens.
no, no, yeah, yeah. It's like our hindsight 2020, but you can't. Nobody can see the future. Nobody can. Nobody could have expected all these things unless they planned
Okay,
it. And then you know what I
yes,
mean?
but I mean, it's still an interesting question. I mean, like,
No,
what's
no,
going to
no.
happen
I
when
that's
they?
exactly what I'm saying. Like it's interesting, but like who knows? Like because what we're thinking of those people, and they're like, and you're like, what are they going to look back to? Because they're always changing things, and maybe
Hmm.
to us that looks like chaos, but to the generations in front, it might look like nothing.
Right. So that's the question: is what can we maybe predict about that? What can we guess about it? I mean, like, I know
Well,
that
you can
there
predict
are.
that this, yeah. We can predict, yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, what it might be, I don't know. I was just thinking about, like, so, like, again, my frame of reference is going to have to be my students. And what's interesting is that I don't think nostalgia was such a popular thing back before, like, I don't know, the 90s or whatever. That's when I was born, so that's what I know. But I feel like I even went through a time when, like, people didn't care about old stuff. It was just kind of like, well, we're doing what we're doing. And so when it comes to nostalgia, it's just kind of
You know,
it's
I
not a
disagree.
value in itself.
Collections, people collecting things as a hobby
But
has
even
been
that's
around forever.
recent. That's not like,
No,
so now we've got like.
people hoard, like all generations hoard. There are people that collect things like stamps.
Mhm.
People, I guess, before our time, or earlier than us, they collected coins, money. Like nobody's gonna collect stamps now, but people in that generation definitely collected stamps.
Yeah, but think of like the nature of it now. Now it's like monetized. Everything, there's trading cards, and then there's like collectible, whatever,
Well,
from like
actually, yeah,
Beanie
even
Babies and
cards are
anime.
quite old, right? Like the newest generations, they don't do that. They
Right.
don't.
So
There is
these are
no
just
cards to collect.
examples. I wonder if we could. I wonder if collecting is actually not quite as in vogue as it used to be. But like,
It is.
but it
It
would.
is. It is in now. Like card collecting. for like sports and
Mhm.
stuff, it's really
Oh,
hot now because
that's
our
gotta be tough.
generation is old, and our generation is the generation with money, the 30s, right? That's
I
where
wish
most
I was
people have
part
their
of the
money.
generation with money.
Well, no, no,
Wow.
no. The generation
Where are
we don't have
they?
money, but generally, the people that are in late 20s, early 30s
Spend
are
their
the
money
ones
on
with
stuff.
people. Yeah, and then those are
Mm.
that was our generation that grew up with playing cards like Pokemon and stuff.
Mhm.
And right now, like collect like sports cards, Pokemon cards are hot. Like people are using that as investments.
Okay, so
A
when I
lot of
say
people are.
like this kind of like collecting culture is new, I guess I can't say for sure. I don't know. I wasn't around in the 1800s. I think this is
I've
a.
seen your video with Pokemon cards. Just letting you know.
Did I put up a video with Pokemon cards? Oh my gosh! Oh, that's my Poke. Okay, yeah, okay. Yes, I have a Pokemon card collection. I was just looking through my foil cards recently. Yes, I have a Pokemon card
You
collection.
should. You should. I mean, if you don't care for too much about them, you should consider letting them go now while it's hot. Because
Is it still hot? I was looking at there was only a
yeah, it
couple of them that
depends
were more than
on
like $10.
they some of them hold. I mean, I don't know what you have, right? But the market for it right now is pretty hot for
That's
trading
cool.
cards.
I might have to jump on that then because that
Yeah,
was
I don't know how
that's
long it
pretty
will
cool.
last, but yeah, people are trading a lot of
Hey, if
cards and
they're up
sports
for it.
cards.
Huh. Yeah, I just got Pokemon cards. And they're old ones. I don't think any of them are like straight up first edition, but I got some.
Oh, if you have first
Pokemon.
editions that are mint, I would send them to like
Yeah,
I would research them and then send it to
sent me from
grading and
college.
stuff. Yeah,
Jeez.
yeah.
Okay. But anyway, what I was saying is I think that this kind of collector thing is sort of like an artifact of just pop culture in general because it doesn't need to. Like, think of all the things that you do collect. You collect sports cards. You collect things that are references to like games or TV shows, or then there's like Beanie Babies, like this kind of thing. Even collectible things, they have to be manufactured. So it's contingent upon manufacturing technology. Culture has to be exposed to all this broad stuff for it to have that kind of value anyway. So I think that this is still kind of a fairly modern thing. But
It's for your cultures with the if they're affluent like as a society, because if you're if
it
you're if
does
you're
feel like
not,
a rich guy
then you're
thing,
you're
yeah,
yeah, like, well, not a rich guy, but comparatively, like if
rich
you can
culture
feed your
thing.
family and have money left over, then yes, then you look towards
That's
hobby.
stuff you want.
But if you're at survival stage where, or if you're exactly like war torn countries or third world countries where there's no food,
Mm.
you're not collecting cards.
Yeah, it's
Generally,
just not
yeah.
valuable in that way. Okay, so let's go. We got to hear from some nostalgia somewhere. All I'm saying is that it feels like nostalgia, like all the other buzzwords that come through, feels like it was kind of like its own fad, where it was like, oh, I miss the good old days. But there would be like kids in their like teens. They're like, oh, nostalgia for what? You're still in the good old days. Like, enjoy yourself, go have fun. I'm still
They
in the good old days.
they hear what we say and they are emulating.
Yeah,
That's what I think.
and we're
They don't know
emulating
what
other
it means,
people,
but
and
they know it's a cool thing that's going around, so they're saying it.
it's the same thing as and I did this, so I can happily point the finger at these people. The same people as the same thing as the kids that grew up that are like, oh, I listen to classic rock because it's what my parents listened to and it's cool and that was the good music. And few people can actually articulate why they think it's better. And spoiler alert, it's not that much better.
It's
But
different.
it gives you this kind of like levity above culture where it's like, oh well, I listened to a bygone era and they knew what they were doing and now we've just devolved from there.
Yeah.
So
It's
nostalgia seems to fit in that kind of like cultural realm.
maybe people from that age, that's their reasoning. They felt good when they were listening to it. That was their golden days, and that
Mm.
brings their memories back to their golden days, and that's why they think it's better because they were better, or at least they felt better.
Mm.
Because they're probably 50s, 60s now or whatever, but like when they listen to that music, maybe they were in their 20s, right?
Yeah,
So
and that's
so every time they psychologically get back into that nostalgic moment, they have, hormones
yeah.
pumping. Oh, this is the stuff. This was great back then.
And there's nothing to say to despair. I think that's a good part of human experience. The problem comes in when it's like, oh, I want to be nostalgic, but I don't have much to be nostalgic about. And so you just kind of like pine for this emotion that's not quite in your phase of life. Like there's got to be a better way to to grow up instead of waiting to look back on where you are. There's just a bunch of paradox writing in this. Yeah.
You know what? You know how you mentioned younger kids talking about nostalgia, and for us, like a year back is nothing. For them, a year back is like probably like 1/10 of their life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I asked an old man about this once. I said, if I said, "Oh, this happened years ago," what would you expect me to mean? He's like, "I don't know, probably 5 or 6." And I was like, "Now think of someone your age. If he said this was years ago, he'd be like, oh, this is like 30 or 40 years ago." And like it's very much relative
longer than
to
my
how old
life.
you are. Yeah, like I wasn't alive for years ago. Oh well,
Right.
that's
Yeah.
something we
So
gotta
so
come
maybe
to.
for them it is nostalgia because 2 weeks ago they didn't they
That
it wasn't
doesn't.
for
Oh,
them. Maybe TikTok was a thing and now it's
oh my
not
gosh.
anymore. And
Oh, you're
before that it was like
uh,
or the new generation they don't use Facebook.
yeah.
They're like, what is that?
You're grinding my face off with this conversation at this point.
No, but it's true. And then
Nostalgia from
the ones
TikTok.
the people that are using Facebook, they're left behind. They're the ones that are not using TikTok, right? So
Or whatever else they're using now. I think
well,
Instagram's
yeah,
still going
they're
strong.
changing it. Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts. I don't know how they're gonna
Yeah.
do with this, but deal with it. But or yeah.
Yeah. Seems YouTube is basically an institution though. I think YouTube's not going to be going anywhere.
YouTube is not it's not just a video site. It's literally I mean YouTube is Google and Google is YouTube right now.
Yeah. They like
It's second
appliances.
the biggest search engine in the world is Google, and second is
Mm.
YouTube, and they're owned by the same company. So, huh?
Yeah. We're all owned by corporations now.
Well, that's what they were talking about. Not too long ago with when Facebook went. I think they were trying to people are making arguments. I don't know if you know, but in Alaska they have a UBI of sorts, money from oil. So they so if you're a resident of Alaska, you have like a dividend, maybe like $1,000 a month for every single person.
Oh, that's nice. Be convenient.
Well, yeah, you don't. Yeah, so
Just
I
for
mean,
living in
I might
Alaska.
move up to Alaska.
But then you have
just
to
for,
live in Alaska.
no, well,
This
I
is
don't know.
please live in Alaska payment. Yeah.
It's not, but that's what I'm saying, and it's from the oil, and then people are saying that technology and all this information where they harvest it from us, our user interactions and all this data is the new oil or the new gold, the new
Yeah.
oil, and it's enough for them to UBI everybody. So,
Ugh, weird.
wait, was it who said that? Oh no, yeah. So I did remember who said it. I think it was Andrew Yang. He was a Democratic
Oh, I remember
Party
that guy.
nominee.
I don't know
Yeah,
anything
he was
about him, but
Taiwanese, I think, or Taiwanese American.
mm,
But yeah,
hmm.
yeah, he was a proponent of universal basic income, and he said how to fund it is through taxing those corporations. That I mean, they're using tech as the new oil. So
Yeah.
and then
Oh,
yeah, in their calculations, there's definitely enough money to do that just from
mm,
those. So.
hmm.
I mean, that's another topic, right?
That's
Because
a
not
huge
everyone
topic,
likes to
and I am
buy.
perfectly ignorant on that one.
Yeah.
And with that said, that is all the time we have for today. Until next time,
Yep. Tune back
keep it spicy.
9:45 Eastern time every week on
Mhm.
Mondays. All
We'll see you
right.
later.
Take care, everybody. Yep.